start in about 5 minutes. Thanks for your patience.
Thanks. Too many people smiling in here. Mr. Cole, it's always good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
I don't see you often, though.
There's been a lot going on.
Yeah, there has. All right, are we all ready? Good morning, and thank you all for being here. At around 5 p.m. on July 25th of 2024, in a residential, I stress residential, area of Philadelphia, 1300 Porter Street, there was a shootout between two people. We're going to talk about these two people, both of whom are now under arrest and are charged with a litany of charges. They are Salvatore Branco and Rhett, that's R-H-E-T-T, Mazza, M-A-Z-Z-A. Both defendants opened fire in broad daylight with zero care or regard for the safety of people in the area, including people walking their dogs, people coming home from work, or children who were playing. As 20 gunshots rang out that day, children could be heard screaming, people could be seen running for cover. This terrifying incident ended when Branco and Mazza both fled from the scene, leaving an elderly member of our community shot in the stomach and another person's dog shot in the head and killed. We are going to talk in more detail about the charges that have been brought against these two people, Mr. Branco and Mr. Mazza, for this dangerous, reckless, wildly irresponsible series of crimes that they have committed. But it's actually even a little bit deeper, because this case involves straw purchasing. It involves the illegal trade in firearms. We will, I hope, as a group, together, in collaboration, make it very clear that there is zero tolerance for those who shoot others. The DA's office has and will continue to hold people strictly accountable for this kind of unacceptable violent conduct. Our partnership with the Philadelphia Police Department is stronger than ever before. We are very grateful for Captain James Kearney and his team for the outstanding investigation on this case and on related matters to this case, and for their collaboration to seek justice for this elderly victim and for this community impacted by this absolutely unacceptable and senseless crime. This is a 72-year-old woman, 72-year-old woman who got shot. No Philadelphia resident should have to experience the trauma and fear of being a victim of crime, of this kind of shooting occurring, of illegal straw purchase activity that only feeds violent incidents such as this. If there is anyone in Philadelphia, including in the area of 1300 Porter, in need of support, I am asking you to please contact our DAO Victim Witness Services Unit at 215-686-6306. A couple of introductions. We have with us today Captain James Kearney, that's K-E-A-R-N-E-Y, who is the commanding officer of the Philadelphia Police Department's SIG, S-I-G, that's the Shooting Investigation Group. We have Sergeant Vince Nowakowski, and that's N-O-W-A-K-O-W-O-S-K-I. That's how I have it spelled. Did I mess that up? Did I give you an extra O? I did. All right, we'll try again. N-O-W-A-K-O-W-S-K-I. We got it that time. Sergeant Nowakowski is with PPD's Shooting Investigation Group as well. Robert Listenby, First Assistant, Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, is here. ADA Bill Fritzy, who is the Chief of the DAO's Gun Violence Task Force, is also here. We have ADA Kevin Bentoncourt. I'm hoping we have this spelled right. B-E-N-T-A-N-C-U-R. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Who is with the DAO's Gun Violence Task Force. He is here as well. He's going to be working personally on this. And of course, we have our Chief of Homicide Non-Fatal Shootings, ADA Joanne Pescator, who is here as well. In just a moment, we will hear from ADA Bill Fritzy and ADA Kevin Bentoncourt about this incident and the charging against Salvatore Branco and also against Rhett Mazza for their role in this non-fatal shooting and straw purchasing. I'll have more to say at the end. But I will say this, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I don't care what part of the city is, I don't care who's involved. You better put your guns down. You got beefs, you better not be settling them this way, or we at the DA's office, with the Philadelphia Police Department, with agents from the Attorney General's office, will settle it for you. And we will not hesitate to pick up the phone and call the special agent in charge of the FBI and the ATF and bring all the resources that are out there down. This is completely and utterly unacceptable in any neighborhood. These acts are unacceptable committed by any people, and we're not having it, simply put. It is my pleasure at this time to call up ADA Bill Fritzy and ADA Kevin Bentoncourt to say more about this case.
Good morning. Today's investigations are an example of what can happen when law enforcement approaches gun violence from all sides. Here you had an investigation that had been ongoing through the Assistant District Attorney Kevin Bentoncourt and our Attorney General agent Don Morano, and that investigation had been going into straw purchasing of Mr. Branco. Unfortunately, while we were conducting that investigation, this shooting occurred. But this is another facet of law enforcement working along parallel lines. So you have the shooting investigation group that did an excellent job with their investigation here. And as a result, because of the background that we had in our investigation in straw purchasing, you're going to see that the defendant was not only charged in regards to the shooting, but also into the straw purchasing charges. And what that creates is one district attorney who has background in the case, who's helped build that investigation from the ground up, working with the joint abilities of the Attorney General agents and the Philadelphia Police Department with our shooting and investigation group. And we'll use those resources to continue to investigate in that area, as well as to prosecute these cases to their fullest extent. So we're very lucky that we have the task force here in the city and that we've built a coalition with the police department, the shooting investigation group, as well as the Attorney General and the agents from the Attorney General's office. When we're engaged in this way, we continue to make Philadelphia safer. I will step back now. I'll let Mr. Bentoncourt tell you about the facts of these investigations.
Thank you. This case stemmed from a straw purchase investigation. It had begun with Agent Donald Morano. He had been looking into Salvatore Branco after 3 of Mr. Branco's firearms started turning up in different kinds of criminal incidents around the city. So straw purchasing, that's when you buy firearms for people who, well, either they can't buy firearms for themselves or they don't want to be connected to that firearm in some kind of way. It's a pretty serious crime and it's incredibly dangerous to the city. One of Mr. Branco's firearms had been found in a home along with 5 other firearms. Some of those were in stolen status. One of them was connected to a homicide. Another one of Mr. Branco's firearms turned up in an aggravated assault incident after it had been pointed at an individual, and one was recovered from a narcotics stash location after our narcotics unit was doing surveillance. Mr. Branco had never reported any of these firearms stolen, and many of the firearms he purchased happened to be the same exact makes and models, which tends to be a pretty clear indicator of straw purchasing. At this time, 8 of Mr. Branco's firearms remained somewhere within the community. So, if you believe that you may be in possession of one of Mr. Branco's firearms, kind of consider this your last warning to turn it in. If you're found in possession of one of Mr. Branco's firearms, I can assure you, you will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. We want to thank the Philadelphia Police Department Shooting Investigation Group for the outstanding investigation on this case, especially Captain Kearney, Detective Babb, and Detective Kelly. We also want to thank our partners with the Attorney General's office, specifically Agent Donald Morano, who worked tirelessly on this case and continues to work tirelessly on this case. Mr. Branco has been charged with aggravated assault, simple assault, possession of an instrument of crime, VUFA 6106, VUFA 6108, and recklessly endangering another person. He's charged with 2 counts of each of those. Mr. Mazza has the same charges, along with an additional charge for 6105, since he was prohibited, not allowed, to possess a firearm at all. Mr. Bronco has also been charged with a large number of VUFA-related charges in regards to straw purchasing. Those charges are under 6111, and it's under G4, G42, G2, G1, 4911. I can go on. Straw purchasing, like I said, it's a very serious crime. When you fill out that paperwork and you are stating that you are buying that gun for yourself, and then you lie, those are felony charges and must be taken seriously. Thank you.
It is now my pleasure, in a moment, to introduce Captain Kearney to say a few words as well. But a little history here, a little context, because, you know, I think there is much to be praised in the shooting investigation group of the Philadelphia Police Department. It's an innovation that has had a very positive effect. So, and interestingly, it's the type of change within PPD that is almost parallel to a change that we actually made in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office a little bit prior. So there was a time not that long ago when non-fatal shootings were handled by detectives throughout the city. They were not necessarily exclusive to doing shootings. They did other types of detective work. And there came a moment at the height of the worst moments of the gun violence crisis during the pandemic when both offices, in their own way, reflected on what was going on. The reflection here in the DA's office was that we could do better and we could benefit from viewing all shootings as homicides with either good medical care or bad aim. That what we should be doing is to put homicide cases in the DA's office together with shooting cases, and that we therefore change the unit from the homicide unit to the homicide non-fatal shooting unit. Why? Well, because it put a whole lot of knowledge in the same place when you put those lawyers in the same place, and there would be cross-pollination, sharing of the information, and there would be apprentice learning. You would have younger attorneys learning, working their way up to handling shooting cases where there was no injury, handling shooting cases where there was injury, handling shooting cases where there was serious injury, and then handling homicide cases. They would be able to do so with a portfolio of cases that was mixed as they progressed in their career and as they developed. Having been to law school, which I was, where frankly, I don't think anybody learned a whole lot, and having learned what I needed to know on the job, I am a big believer in apprentice learning, and that is something that we did in the DA's office. The data showed positive results coming out of that. Pretty close in time, the Philadelphia Police Department made a decision to go from a system where you had detectives throughout the city doing shootings to set up a unit that was dedicated to shootings, and that was called SIG, S-I-G, the Shooting Investigation Group. I think there is little question that it has been a tremendous benefit to the city, that it has allowed PPD to do even better investigative and detective work in these cases, that it has centralized things so that collaboration between these offices and with other law enforcement partners has been better. Frankly, I applaud what the Philadelphia Police Department did with SIG. I think it was a great idea. I hope they keep going, and I hope that both offices in some way or another keep collaborating and learning from each other about the benefits of treating the most serious crimes as being worthy of reorganization and worthy of the most serious resources. Having given that context, it is my pleasure to call up Captain Kearney, who's doing a great job running the SIG these days.
Thank you, D.A. Krasner. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about the Shooting Investigations Group and this investigation and what led us here today. On broad daylight, just before 5 p.m. on the 25th, there was a shootout on the streets of Philadelphia on Porter Street in the 1300 block of West Porter, which is a close-knit community down there in South Philly. A block and a half away, a 72-year-old woman who heard the shots went to her door and immediately felt that she was struck in her abdomen through no fault of her own. Also, as a result of this shootout, a family pet was killed, shot in the head, and died in the arms of its owner. Tragic, and unfortunate. But almost immediately, Shooting Investigation Group detectives went to work. This case was assigned to Sergeant Nowakowski under direction of Lieutenant Johnson, And although Detectives Kelly and Babb were assigned, it is a group together that works with and uses all our resources that brought this case in. And we brought it in pretty quickly. That night, Mr. Bronco turned himself in to Shooting Investigations Group, and by July 31st, we had a warrant, and the second offender, Mazaret, was arrested. Evidence was recovered, search warrants were served, but from early on, working with, having relationships with the gun violence unit at the DA's office and the AG's office, having those relationships early on came through that there were parallel investigations that may have been going on that assisted. Witnesses assisted in this investigation. Tips and video were all parts of what made this investigation come together and come to fruition, resulting in to arrest. I'm extremely proud to be the captain of the Shooting Investigation Group. These are the finest detectives in the country, and to have the direction and the supervisors that I have, it's probably the best job in the world. So DA Krasner, I hope they keep this thing around for a long time, because I couldn't find a better place to work. I'm proud of the relationships we have with the DA's office, with the AG's office, and with our law enforcement partners at all levels. We don't pick our victims. We don't get a say on who gets shot, but we certainly know how to use all the resources afforded to us to have success in bringing these cases to fruition, and success we are having. The Shooting Investigation Group is widely successful. I take this plan and this group and this idea the way we're doing it here in Philadelphia across the country if we could. It's working. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you, Mr. Krasner, and thank you all.
Thank you very much, Captain, and to more success. We look forward to it among all partners. All right, it's time for questions and at least some answers. Mr. Turner, ABC, do you have any questions? Mr. Jeff Cole, do you have any questions, sir?
So Bronco, he's the straw buyer, he's the shooter in this case, and the straw himself? Who's the straw?
That's correct. Mr. Salvatore Bronco, he was purchasing firearms, selling those firearms out on the street. He also happened to be the shooter in this case. The investigation of the straw purchasing was ongoing when the incident had occurred, the shooting incident had occurred.
What kind of guns? You said he's buying the same kind of gun, which is a giveaway for a straw. What was he buying?
Several different firearms. While I can't give you the models right now or serial numbers, some are Glocks, some are FNs. There were several different identical makes and models that were purchased throughout his time.
Was he buying at the same gun store?
Several different gun stores.
Several different gun stores. Sometimes the ATF will cue on someone who's also acting in this way. You said there was a police officer who was sort of watching him because the guns were turning up.
So
That's how you lead to him as a straw. No one looks and says, this dude's buying 10 guns at a shot, they're all wrong.
So we often do have cooperation with the ATF, and they help us out on our investigations. This case specifically, and I have to give a big shout out to Agent Donald Morano for taking the reins on it. He saw a firearm come in. He quickly looked into who the individual was who purchased it, and the investigation took off from there.
Buying from Philly gun stores? Where's he buying, or outside the city?
Several gun stores throughout the entire state.
Any of the gun stores come to you and say, hey, we're seeing this guy all the time here?
I can't comment on that.
So I get on him. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Cole?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. That's what I get. Yes, sir.
I just had a couple. I was going to ask the captain here a little bit about your view. Are straws or straw purchasing the main source of illegal guns, or is it simply lost and stolen? People are buying a lot and putting them on the street. What's the source?
We, at the Shooting Investigations Group, are not totally investigating straw purchases, say. We turn that over to the AG's office. But inside the Shooting Investigations Group, we also have 8 detectives who are assigned to what we call the Gun Violence Task Force, where they work with the AG's office, they work with the ATF to do some of these straw purchases and follow up on that type of information. What guns are we seeing out there? We're seeing a lot of guns out there. A lot, from all different places. From taken from cars, we're seeing a big rash of break-ins from cars, from these straw purchases, from burglaries, you name it, we're seeing it. From other states and cities, we're seeing it. Way too many.
Doesn't Pennsylvania, in essence, produce its own illegal guns? I mean, some states get them from the South. We seem to do pretty well in producing our own illegal weapons, right? They're coming from different parts of the state.
I think if you were asking me about how we go about solving non-fatal shootings, I have every answer for you. I don't have an answer for that.
You said your unit is wildly successful, I think you said, or very successful. How do you know?
Clearance rates. You know, I don't want to get in what the number is right now, but our clearance rates are up. From the time we centralized our shooting investigations group, instead of having it out in the divisions, we've more than doubled our clearance rates on these non-fatal shootings.
More than double.
Yes. Thank you.
As far as straw purchasing and where we're getting the guns from, yes, we do get a lot from the collar counties around Philadelphia. A lot of people go there and purchase their firearms, but it does not mean that that's where all of our firearms come from. We do get firearms influx from the South, from different states as well. But we have a lot of gun stores in Pennsylvania and a lot of opportunities for people to purchase these firearms and then get them onto our streets.
You don't have a sense of, whether straw is the major way in which these guns are moved. I know it's sort of counting that.
Well, we have a lot of different ways for people to purchase firearms now, right? So now you don't even need a straw necessarily, because you can buy a ghost gun on the internet and have it sent to your home and put it together. So we see an increase in ghost guns on the street now that, 4 or 5 years ago, we saw, I think 18 ghost guns maybe in 2019. So we see an increase, just as the captain said, we see them coming from wherever. And a lot of them do come from break-ins or people leaving them on the bus or on the playground. We have a lot of people who are not, who are handling firearms who are not responsible enough with their firearms to begin with. And that also increases the amount of guns that get on the street.
All right, anything else, Mr. Cole? Yes, sir.
Two more. First, Kamala Harris is going to be receive the nomination Thursday night to be in essence, I guess she already has. She was considered when she was the DA in San Francisco as a progressive prosecutor. Do you see her rise in the Democratic Party as supportive of your view in terms of how crime ought to be prosecuted and approached?
See, now that is a question I'm dying to answer. And in fact, I will answer it, but I have to do it outside. And I'll do it now, after we finish, but I have to do it outside because we are in the midst of a campaign, and as you know, there are ethical rules about having DAO employees, other than me, I can do politics all day long, and DAO resources used for the purpose of discussing a campaign. But I will answer that question for you outside if you have the ability to wait till the end.
Sure. Mark Dial is out on lawn. Your office was aggressive about putting him back in prison on murder one. You believe he was obviously involved in that way. He is out, and you have dropped murder one, and the reporting is that apparently information was not disclosed to the defense, and he's out. It seems like that is a major error and mistake by your office. Can you speak to that in any way?
I cannot, and the reason is we're under a gag order, which does call into question the reporting. When the reporting is based on information coming from sources that are either not honoring a gag order or giving one side, there can be issues. But the bottom line, Mr. Cole, whatever happens in court and whatever is permitted by the gag order happens in court. But we are under a gag order at this time, and the gag order prevents us from speaking in other contexts about this case. I would love to answer your question, but that is something that under this gag order I'm not permitted to do until the case is disposed.
Do you at least agree that the perception here is this cop was really badly treated here, that he was held for a long time, and then there's some sort of screw up and he gets out?
I am under a gag order. Once again, I would love to answer your question, but I am under a gag order from a judge, and it is our obligation to do what we are ordered, legally ordered by a judge to do. All right, let me see. Sherry Stone, do you have any questions? We are not putting her name out on purpose. Obviously, we take very seriously the protection of any victims or witnesses. especially in a case where people are blasting away with 20 different shots in a residential area. However, there is more information that those closest to the case may or may not be willing to share. I will leave that to Captain Kearney and ADA Bettencourt and ADA Fritzie to respond if they would like to do so.
I mean, here's a 72-year-old woman who was going about her day, heard a commotion and gunshots outside, a block, almost 2 blocks away, and goes to the door and feels a gunshot wound. They're tragic. Not much more to be said. I think that speaks for itself, the amount of recklessness that was used in this shootout on a Philadelphia street.
Ms. Stone, do you have any other questions? No? Okay. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Cole. I'll be happy to go outside if that is something you still wish. Thank you.
Sounds good.